Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how the polls shifted over 2023 into a situation whereby even when the gap between Labour and the Conservatives closes, it could actually mean the Tories lose even more seats. Confused? That is because of the rise in tactical voting. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So for almost all of last year, Labour had a roughly 20-point lead over the Conservatives. It bobbed up and down, varied according to different pollsters, but was mostly 20 points. However, in terms of Labour's vote share in polls alone, it actually went down over the course of last year. On Politico's poll of polls, which tracks a number of pollsters, Labour went from 47% to 43%. With YouGov, it was from 48% to 44% across the span of last year. So over the course of 2023, Labour lost vote share. Now, you would think that would be good news for the Tories, wouldn't you? After all, if Labour get fewer votes, they'll win fewer seats. Except no, that's not how our elections work with our first past the post system. Labour losing vote share can actually cost the Tories even more seats. I'll explain. So first of all, let's go through what happened. As 2023 progressed, memories of Liz Truss began to fade and people no longer felt the need to run to Labour as energetically. But we also need to consider where those votes from Labour went and in which areas. So where are the various places those votes could be lost from Labour? First, the votes could be switching from Labour to the Conservatives. Now that would be good news for the Tories. However, this isn't what was happening when you look under the bonnet. Conservative vote share also went down last year, not as much as Labour's, but it was still down. They were not the beneficiaries of voters turning from Labour to any appreciable degree. Second, the votes could be disappearing into don't knows or gravitating towards parties that have no bearing on the competition between Labour and the Conservatives to form a government. You know, this sort of vote loss is potentially good news for the Conservatives. It's not as good as if they flip to themselves, but, you know, any vote draining away from Labour is, in theory, good news because it means Labour are losing votes. But if the Tories aren't directly gaining them, it's like worth one vote rather than two. However, it matters where these votes are being lost. Because for it to be good news for the Tories, those votes need to be lost from Labour in marginal seats where they are competing with Labour. It's no good to them if they're being lost in seats that Labour have no chance of winning anyway. It's no good to them if they're being lost in already safe Labour seats, because Labour will still win them. Labour losing votes there doesn't change any constituency results. And then there's the third way that the Labour vote share could be going down. And that would be decidedly bad news for the Tories. Because the Tories are not just in competition with Labour. On a national scale, yes, they're competing with Labour to form the next government. But we have a parliamentary democracy where you win that support to form a government on a constituency by constituency basis. And there are quite a lot of seats which the Conservatives are competing with the Liberal Democrats for, particularly in their own traditional heartlands. Now, if Labour are losing vote share to the Liberal Democrats in seats where the Liberal Democrats are challenging the Tories, then Labour losing vote share doesn't hurt Labour, but it hurts the Conservatives very badly. The essence of tactical voting is not... It's to not vote for the candidate or party you most prefer out of all the hypothetical options. It's to vote against the one you least prefer of the realistic options. So at the general election, it will be common for constituencies to have between, say, 4 and 6 candidates. Some may attract more, you know, from fringe candidates, but particularly high profile seats. But mostly you'll get about 4 to 6 candidates on the ballot paper. That is your theoretical choice. But in reality, you have 3 choices when you fill in your ballot paper. No matter how many candidates there are, you've got 3 choices. You've got the choice of the candidate most likely to win. You've got the choice of the candidate best placed to challenge them. And then you've got the choice of effectively spoiling your ballot. There are a small number of 3-horse races, but the vast majority of seats are a contest of 2 candidates. The rest of them are just adding a bit of spice to proceedings. And in most seats, it's the Conservatives who are one of the 2 realistic candidates. After 14 years of Tory ruin, an increasing number of people would like to use their votes to have an impact, and they want that impact to be the end of this Conservative government. So tactical voting is a way of using your vote against the Conservatives. You identify which candidate is best placed to defeat that Conservative candidate, and you vote for them, even if they are not your preferred candidate. You know, they are you think about it as, with tactical voting, it's the preferred candidate of the realistic choices, not the hypothetical choices. And looking at the detail of voting intention polls this year, we can see a few things. First, the biggest hit to Labour's loss of vote share has actually been in safe areas, particularly places like London and Wales. You know, it's particularly places where Labour already have large majorities, and so losing that vote share doesn't actually cost them any seats. So it's completely neutral to Labour. Second major source of loss of votes from Labour has been towards the Liberal Democrats. Now, this is very likely as a result of tactical voting campaigns, which have been amplified not only because they've been ramping up ahead of the election, but because of the many Tory by-elections we had last year. It's allowed people to campaign to persuade people to vote tactically in a way that was interesting, because elections were all of a sudden national news. In fact, by-election results where the Tories were incumbent has shown clear evidence of tactical voting between Labour and the Lib Dems as appropriate. The evidence that large numbers of people are intending to vote tactically to kick the Tories out is mounting. So expect to see more evidence at the upcoming by-elections this year as well. And the Conservatives are very worried about this. So much so that, let me give you a word of warning, if you are thinking of voting tactically, or you know someone who is. The Tories know that tactical voting is gaining ground, and they are not powerless to combat it. So imagine you are someone who wants to vote tactically in the general election. Not everyone will do, but let's say you are. But you're not a political geek like I am. So how do you know who the tactical vote is for? It's not always the case that the traditional second place candidate is the tactical choice. It may be that the candidate who keeps coming second, or the party who keeps coming second, is doing as well as they realistically can. And actually, it's the third place candidate who could leapfrog over them to take those Tory votes and be the tactical choice. So you need help from those who analyse polling and demographics in detail. And there are various ways in which you will be able to learn who your tactical choice is. And I'll be covering those in, I'm going to make a playlist of these videos. I'm going to cover these as we build up to the election. But in the here and now, imagine you are someone who's not that interested in politics, but you do want to use your vote. You want to use your vote tactically. You don't know who the tactical choice is in your constituency. So what do? You do what anyone does. You'd Google it, wouldn't you? Don't. Really don't. The Tories are going to set up fake tactical voting sites for the election, and they will pay through the nose to make sure that they are the top ranked searchers, the ones that look the most professional. They will pretend to be anti-Tory tactical voting sites, just like the real ones. Remember, in 2019, the Tories turned their official Conservative Party Twitter account into what looked like an independent fact-checking account, so that they could comment on the various things that the Conservative and other candidates were saying at the TV debates. They are going to do the same this year, and they're going to do the same for absolutely everything. They're going to try and steer people the wrong way with what look like independent sites, but they're not. And they will set up loads of these tactical voting sites who will give you the wrong advice. And as I say, I'm going to cover this again at various points as we build up to the election. So if you want to keep checking back on this playlist, do so. But there are two pieces of advice I would give right now. The main one is to sign up to stop the Tories.vote. Go to the site. There's a link in the description below. Subscribe to that. They will tell you the reliable tactical voting advisors come the election. The second one, if you don't want to trust anybody, trust your local bookie. Bookies don't get things like this. They want to make money. Yes, the actual betting odds are not a reflection of the probability of certain candidates winning, because they massage the betting odds to try and attract people to put their money on things that aren't going to win, right? Because they want to make money. But if you look at the betting odds for your constituency, whichever is the non-Tory candidate with the shortest odds, they are the tactical pick. or almost certainly they will be the tactical pick. There might be a small number of seats where it's not, which is why signing up to stopthetories.vote will be the better option. But if you just want to go, look, who's got the shortage odds? The bookies know what they're talking about. That's not bad advice. Of course, this is why what we really need is proportional representation. Because how insane is it that a party can win 100% of the power in Parliament with less than 50% backing from the public? How insane is it that you can watch Labour's vote share decline over the course of last year and it's actually bad news for the Tories? Politics with first past the post just doesn't make sense. Proportional representation allows you to vote for the candidate or the party you prefer without risking the very worst candidate actually winning power. Because in first past the post, if you vote for the party you prefer, you could actually enable the party you least prefer, the one you most hate, in fact. So really, proportional representation is how we kick the Tories out for good. But first, we need them out in the short term, and tactical voting is the only option. It's an option that the Tories fear as well. They've been ranting against Labour Lib Dem tactical voting in particular for over 2 years now. Ed Davey has had to say again, there's not going to be any pact between Labour and the Lib Dems. Of course, in reality, there won't need to be this time. But they've been doing that because the Tories are pushing that idea. The Tories know it's a serious challenge to them, but it also has other benefits as well. But I'll also go over those benefits to proportional representation in future videos and tactical voting in general, because I'm going to be doing a bit of a series of them. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.